Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Solutions, Not Just Problems. We are your hosts, Vanessa K and Be Real. Be Real, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Too bad we couldn't air what we just talked about a minute ago because we
I
had
know.
some good laughs here.
Well, we'll get back into it.
Talking about your Vanessa-isms.
Stop, stop it.
So now everything is going great here in the studio, at the lab, mixing things up back here. Looking forward to our visit to Providence that's going to be coming up. I know we talked about it last week, but really looking forward to doing the interview
Oh, yeah.
on the
18,
18th,
93.7, the Jew.
93.7 with my man DJ
Yes.
Finesse. And then on Sunday, we are going to be going to the Juneteenth festival that's going to take place at Roger Williams Park,
Yeah, the temple.
12 until the Temple of Music. Yep. Remember the I don't know if you remember back in the day, we used to have Emancipation Day.
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
remember.
That was on August the 1st. And
That's
that
right. It was always the first.
yeah, they kind of got rid of that, and I guess they replaced it with Juneteenth, which is cool. You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? I guess they were too close together to have two functions like that. But looking forward the 22nd of June, which is going to be on a Sunday from 12 until 7. Roger Williams Park, Temple of Music. Be there.
Yes, bring your thoughts and your ideas. Bring your voice because we want to hear from you.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're getting into our series now, financial literacy. And we're excited about beginning this series. Uh, how many of us dream about winning the lottery or coming into big money? Well, I know I do. You dream about it, B?
Yeah, I mean, I
All
listen,
the time.
listen. I've always thought about, being wealthy,
Hmm.
being a millionaire. And I've never really been a lottery person, though, to be honest with you. It just never really did anything for me. In fact, I got irritated by people who were in the line waiting for the lottery because I always thought it was a waste of money. You
Right.
know, so when I go to
You're
convenience
holding
stores,
up my time here. I need
yeah, yeah,
one pack of
well,
cigarettes.
hey, all I want is a soda. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he's talking about let me get a number 10 and a number. I'm like, dude, really? You know what I mean? And let me get two on a pick me or whatever the heck they call them. And I'm like, man. And they spend about 5 minutes in line on the lottery, and I'm like, dude, can you just hurry it up, please?
Right, right.
But I, but
Lottery
I, I get what you're
crazy.
saying, though. I mean, I'm all for if the Powerballs, have $500 million or whatever, and you want to, put your little $2 up. But I can tell you right now, here in Georgia, the lottery ain't what it used to be. I think that it went up to like, is it $10?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not in
Oh
Georgia.
yeah, a $2 ticket is now a $10 ticket, or a $2, whatever you put down, that little money you put down is now $10, and they done increased it dramatically. So,
Oh, yeah, and you can't charge it on a card either. That has to be paid.
oh, what do you mean, like a debit card or
Yeah,
credit
they
card?
don't accept cards here. You gotta pay that in cash.
Nah, I'm good.
Your lottery
I
tickets. Yep.
just,
But
I
anyways, we digressing.
yes, yeah, yeah. I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is.
Yes. But the real question we should be asking is if we won that money,
Hmm.
do we know how to keep it? Do we know how to grow it? 70% of lottery winners lose their fortune within the first 5 years.
Mm.
Lottery winners are also twice as likely to file bankruptcy compared to the general population. Why? Because there is a need for financial literacy. Wealth, money, that all is, you have to learn how to mushroom that, how to keep it, how to invest it, and how to maintain it. So we're going to go over that because there's a lot of people that don't know how to do that. We just get our paychecks and we spend it as fast as it comes in the house, right? We pay the bills and whatever's left, we blow it. We're not saving, we're not investing. So we're here to bring all of that to place. So to teach you how to do that. Before we get into this packed series because it's packed with information. We're gonna go with some just basic concepts.
Hmm.
And one of the first ones is living within our means. 85% of Americans live above their means. We see it all the time. I see it when I go by, and an indicator is when I go by an apartment complex and I see high-end cars in the apartment complex. The car costs more than the house, right? Um, do you see stuff like this? Americans living above their means.
Man, I live in Atlanta, and Atlanta has the rents have increased dramatically over the past, let's say, 10 years.
Hmm.
When I first moved here, rent, I got an apartment, two bedroom, $585 a week, right? That same apartment right now is probably 1,500 to 2,000.
Hmm.
So what I see in a lot of apartment complexes and even some like condos or townhouses, is I see a lot of cars, like three and four different cars, okay, in one apartment complex
Mm.
or sharing space at a condo, you know, and they have the Dodge Chargers and the Mercedes Benz and the BMW. And you're right, they have the high priced cars, but you're all living in an apartment, and some of you are probably sleeping on the floor. You know what I mean? You might be sleeping on the couch, whatever the case might be, because most people would rather have a car, unfortunately, than to have a home. I never understood that.
Right.
I mean, home is more important than car, in my opinion. So living within your means is something that, I think that it's something that's either in you or it's not.
Mhm.
Okay. And to be honest with you, I learned this from my mom. Thank God I had a great mother who not only taught us about, managing our money, but also to manage credit as well.
Hmm.
So I had, a great teacher early on. I don't think that everybody has the benefit of having someone to teach them by example, about how to manage money and how to manage credit. I just want to also touch base on one other thing too. I used to be a credit counselor and also a financial and credit educator with Consumer Credit Counseling Service here in Atlanta. And I remember I had one client who was a police officer, and he made, I couldn't believe it, he made like $28,000 a year.
Mm.
Okay. I believe it was in
So
Douglasville.
sad, isn't it?
Huh?
Our police officers, the salaries are so
Yeah,
low.
$28,000 a year. So we had a an appointment where the client came in, he and his wife, and we sat down and we looked at their budget. And I said, with the money you're spending on daycare, with the money that you spend, because they had a young child, the money you're spending on gasoline, the money you're spending on lunch, the money you're spending on all these incidentals, okay, you'd be better off quitting your job and staying at home. So when we went over the budget of what it would look like if she actually didn't work, okay, the family was better off with her staying at home or maybe working a part-time job at the time. It was crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's flipped upside down where you're paying out more to go to work.
Yes.
Well, at this point, we're going to stop for a quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. We're talking about financial literacy and we're going over some basic concepts. We just finished talking about living within our means, and now we're getting into income versus expenses, and that's kind of easy. It's just the income that you bring in, the money that comes in the door, that's income. Anything that comes in, it can look like, um, wages, child support, anything that comes in is income. Anything going out the door is an expense. Real basic concept, but we need to know the differences. That's the language that is used. This one's a little bit more assets versus liabilities. I think this is where we get a little confused at. And like you was mentioning the cars, people investing in cars. Cars are actually considered a liability. As soon as you drive it off the lot, it loses um, it starts to depreciate rapidly. Whereas a house, when you invest in a house, that appreciates over time. So when you're looking at your portfolio and what you have, you want to make sure that your assets and liabilities are jiving together. You don't have too many liabilities and not enough assets.
Yeah, I just want to say too that an asset is something that basically is going to make you money, and a liability is something that's going to cost you to spend money.
Mhm.
So things like you said, like rental property, if you had stocks, bonds, um, any type of business, that would be considered an asset. But anytime you have a bill like a car note, even a house note is considered to be a liability. If you have a business loan or perhaps a student loan, these are all considered to be liabilities. So when you're looking at what is called a balance sheet, okay, a balance sheet is going to list your assets, liabilities, um, and will actually tell you exactly where you are from a financial standpoint in terms of your net worth. So if you take your asset and liabilities and you subtract your liabilities from your assets, that will tell you what your true net worth is. So when you see that term net worth and you see where I'm sorry, where Oprah's worth 2.5 billion or Jay-Z is worth 1.5 billion. Well, they don't have that money in the bank, okay? They're just taking a look at their assets, subtracting out their liabilities, and that figure is what is called net worth. So just thought I'd add that to it as well.
Yeah. Now, what about tracking spending? All right. Let's talk about tracking spending.
No, but the tracking expenses brings me back to my consumer credit counseling days. We used to have this little thing called a pocket tracker,
Hmm.
and trifold, where it allowed you to put down just what you're talking about, all the things that you spend money on every day, you write it down. But now, because we have one of these, it's real easy to track your expenses.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things I do to track my expenses now is I use one card specifically for gas and for food.
Yep.
Okay. And other, things that you may have to pick up at the Dollar Tree or whatever the case might be. But that's a way that you can track it because at the end of the month, you can see exactly what you spent. Okay, so that's a way that you can now keep track of your expenses. Also, for those of you that have a Gmail account or a Google account, right? They have spreadsheets on there where you can maintain, what you spent on a daily or weekly basis, tabulate all that amount or add it up, figure out what you spent and put that weekly amount on your spreadsheet. Okay. A lot of people don't realize that they have what is called a Google Drive, within the Gmail account. And you
Mhm.
also have obviously Gmail, you have YouTube, all of that is part of the package. So if you
Credit
go
Karma
into the,
has
I'm
a free
sorry.
Credit Karma has a free tracking. It's called Mint, which is made by Credit Karma, and that's
Okay.
a free tracking application that you can download on your phone.
Okay.
And it says it's best, it's noted for being the best for all-in-one tracking. So if you're tracking a bunch of things, you can do it right there.
Cool.
Rocket Money, which is formerly Truebill, they have a free basic uh, sample, free basic version, but they also have a premium version, and I think it's like $4 to $12 a month. So yeah, those are some budgeting apps. Spreadsheets always work, like you said, B. I'm the spreadsheet person. I like to see everything.
The spreadsheet queen.
Yeah, yeah, it's easy for, especially if you're like me and want to be in control of everything, right? So
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
like them drives on the G drive, right? There's one for everything.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to know what you have coming in and what you have going out each month. You'd be surprised at what you're spending money on. You know, every time you go and get that coffee in the morning, that adds up at $3 a pop. You multiply that times 30 days, that's almost $100.
Oh yeah, oh
you
yeah.
know. So these are the types of things that we would tell people to track. And now they started getting to the point where it's like, you know what, I'll get a coffee at home, and then when I go to work, I'll get another coffee. And that would be $100 they were able to save,
Hmm.
by tracking that expense and eliminating that expense.
Right.
That doesn't mean that you have to do this forever, but if you find yourself in a tight spot, some of the things you might have to give up for a while. Because what we're talking about is you living within your means. So if you don't have the money to be able to spend it, you may have to cut back for a short period of time. And then when you're able to increase your income or perhaps decrease some of your expenses, then you can go back to, living the lifestyle that you've been accustomed to living.
Right. Before we go to break, there's one more method. This is more like a method for overspenders, people who just have a tendency to run that debit card and up at the end of the day, I done went over. It's called the envelope or cash tracking. you put your money in an envelope and divide it into separate envelopes. Once that money's go and label the envelopes, like it may say, breakfast in the morning on the way to work. You
Hmm.
put so much money in each envelope. Um, Once that money's gone, it's gone. You no longer can spend in that category. So that's another way of tracking. You have anything else you want to add, B, before we go to this break real quick?
No, just that I've utilized uh, these tools and I've utilized um, these methods and they work, you
Hmm.
know. And we're not suggesting that you have to live this way forever, but a lot of us, sometimes find ourselves in a financial pinch where you may have to adjust, how you're spending your money. And later on, we're going to talk more about how you can take any excess money that you have, and this is not necessarily in this show, and learn how to invest that money, okay? And learn how to put that money to work. So that's another class that we're going to have. If you're the person who, I really don't need to, focus so much on budgeting. I need to know what I need to do with this extra money that I have coming in. So we're going to talk about and address that as well in a future podcast.
Absolutely. With that said, we'll be right back, people. So, B, one of the things I see is, and this is a big concept of that, and it kind of goes against what we think, especially when it's Friday, we get paid, we get the bills, and we immediately go into paying our bills. People forget to pay themselves first. That's one of the big things that you should start doing right away. Um, Pay yourself first. Build that emergency fund as you're tracking your spending, as you're, pulling everything in order. Get in the habit of taking money and putting it aside into an emergency fund because life just dishes us things sometimes that where it's just totally unexpected. And it's at that time where we fall financially because we don't have that emergency fund set up. So I like to tell people always think as if there is going to be an emergency and prepare for it because more times than not, life will push one to you, when you're saving, set realistic goals. Not, I'm going to build an emergency fund on $1,000 a week and you don't make that much money, right? Set a realistic goal, something that you can meet, even if it's $5 a week, because that will grow over time. You'll be surprised how fast it grows as well.
Yeah, when I was at Consumer Credit, this is something that we really tried to get people to understand was the concept of paying itself first. And one of the things we would say is try to save between 5 to 10%, So take a percentage of what you make. Let's say you make $1,000 a week, okay? Well, 10% of that would be $100, 5% would be $50. So you'd be able to put aside somewhere between 200 and let's say $400 a month, putting it into a separate savings account, an emergency fund. And over time, it would build up. So if you put $200, let's say a month, into that emergency account, that's almost $2,500.
That's right.
If you double that, that's 5 grand.
Hmm.
So now, when you're going into the new year, you've got $5,000 built up. It's not going to make things quite as difficult. You don't feel like, you're in a pinch every single month,
Right,
you
right.
know, which a lot of us, as you know, are living paycheck to paycheck. We're struggling, and this is probably what is it, 57%? Did you get those numbers? Uh,
For that,
the number of people that live in a paycheck to paycheck?
oh
Yeah,
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 it's about that,
yeah,
57.
yeah. Well, 57% last time I looked. People living paycheck to paycheck in this country. So this particular podcast, I think, really hits home with a lot of people, in terms of being able to manage their finances. Because, like I said, most of us are living paycheck to paycheck.
And here's another thing. There's nothing wrong with opening up multiple accounts. So when you're trying to do this and you're budgeting, and especially the emergency fund, go to a bank I tell my kids, go to a bank that's clear across town. You have no ATM card, no checks, nothing attached to it. When you do your direct deposit, just have that money direct deposited right into that account. You never see it.
Mhm.
And you become accustomed to not living on it, right? It's in another account, you don't see it. What you don't see, you don't touch, right? So um, if you have to set up multiple bank accounts, to divide your stuff up, there's nothing wrong with that. I strongly recommend that. You should have multiple bank accounts. And that's a way of keeping everything automated and staying consistent. So if all of those accounts are being fed, every payday, you're going to build up an emergency fund over time. Well, that's all I have today beyond this, the basic concepts. Next week, we'll get into it a little bit more, but do you have anything to add?
I mean, I think we've touched on just about everything when it comes to budgeting and managing the finances. I will say that there's some organizations that you can contact. Consumer Credit Counseling Service, which I believe is called, it went from credit build to, well, just do this. Look it up.
We'll look
Put
it up and put it in
put
the.
it put it put it put in budget counseling, credit counseling. And if you happen to need assistance, sit down with a counselor. You can do it face to face. You can do it online. You can do it by telephone. Okay. ClearPoint is the name of the organization. Okay. Now that it just came into my mind. Um, ClearPoint is an organization that you can contact that will allow you to have it's probably about a half an hour to an hour session. And they'll not only look at your personal finances and going over your budget, but they'll also take a look at your credit. They'll pull your credit report for free. They'll go over that with you. So you'll have a comprehensive appointment when it comes to looking at your entire financial picture. So I highly recommend that you sit down with a counselor that can give you expert advice as to how to manage your money and how to manage your credit.
And can we put that? We can put that in the description box, right?
Yes, yes, we will.
We'll put, and I also got three good reads for you. These can go in the description box too. The Total Make Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey, Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas Stanley. So we'll put those all in there too. Those are some books on finances and how all of that works.
Yeah, I remember when I was young, I used to recommend Rich Dad, Poor Dad to just about everybody. And I had one person, I don't want to mention their name, but I had one person come up to me and say, you know what? This book changed how I looked at money,
Hmm.
how I looked at finances. And as a result, that person, is a millionaire today.
Yeah, yeah,
Just by looking at money differently,
yeah.
and became a millionaire simply because he learned about investing in property. He learned about how the difference between what they call the millionaire dad, which was somebody who he kind of confided in, and then his own dad, okay, who was somebody who I believe he was a professor. I read that book like 25, 30 years ago.
Hmm.
I believe he was a professor, and he used to tell his son, just put your money aside and make sure you save it and don't take any risk and so forth. But Rich Dad Poor Dad is a very interesting book. Also, The Millionaire Next Door is an interesting book. I haven't read The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey, but I've met Dave Ramsey. I've been on different panels with him, and I know what his concepts are and his way of thinking. And yeah, he's somebody that can help you to get out of debt.
Hmm.
Yeah, let me just tell you, Dave Ramsey is a very aggressive person when it comes to getting out of debt. Like basically, you're going to have no spending for a while.
Right,
For
right.
about 3 to 5 years, you're going to have to make some sacrifices, but it's an aggressive way for you to get out of debt and learn how to manage money moving forward once you've gotten out of debt.
Right. And you realize that it's not as hard. Once you get on a roll, it's not as hard. It's obtainable. Well, if that's all for today, subscribers, we want to thank you for sticking with us and staying tuned in. We appreciate all the support that you give us. And to our listeners, we need your help. We mentioned it before, and we're going to say it again. Our goal is to take this podcast to the next level by getting featured on iHeartRadio and other major platforms in 2026. We need to hit 5,000 subscribers by December of 2025. So, if you enjoy the show, we want to see us grow. Help us reach this milestone by subscribing, sharing, and spreading the word. If you got thoughts or feedback, drop us a comment. We love to hear from you and we talk back. This is Vanessa K and Be Real signing off. Until next time, keep growing, stay motivated, and thank you for tuning in with us.
Peace.
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 No. Oh, yeah, yeah. You gotta do it. Oh, wow.
And when you throw up the peace sign,
Nope, nothing on my end. Something's turned off.
peace. I got the balloons. Peace.
Wow.